Hey Alpha Fam, Coach Sham here with another market update. Before we begin, I do want to say that nothing in these videos is financial advice. Everything's for educational purposes only. It's just my own analysis on the market. Also, if you're new to the Alpha Syndicate channel, if you could please give us a like, comment, and a subscribe. We really do appreciate everyone's support. So let's get into the market, guys. So we're starting to pull back. The reason why is a couple of things. One, this. So apparently Israel, and it's kind of funny because Trump is kind of like pushing the blame, but apparently Israel has violently attacked, or but as according to Trump says, lashed out on a major facility known as South Pars. Apparently this is a gas field in Iran, and this is not a good thing, guys. We're already dealing with the Strait of Hormuz and oil tankers not being able to move and transport oil the way that they're supposed to. We're already dealing with a lot of tension in this area, and this is just something else that just didn't need to happen at this point. This is a big reason I think is driving prices down. And then we also had FOMC yesterday, guys. But what's very weird about this entire thing is what I'm seeing with precious metals. All right. So we know, and I said this on my X page the other day. I said I smelled a trap. When we had moved up all these days, I just knew that we would have a cool down. We would have to come back down. And again, guys, I've been saying it and saying it. I think we're in an accumulation range, and I think we will come and drift back to the bottom of this range. All right. And I even think at some point, especially with everything that's going on, they're going to be able to even complete a spring, which is a deviation outside of the trading range, sweep that liquidity, suck it up, and then push back into the trading range, do a retest, and then push out. And then that's when I think we'll not only have found our bear market floor, but then that's when I think we break out of the bear market and we start our next uptrend. All right, guys? So I'm watching this very closely. But again, this is what doesn't make sense. This is gold. All right? Gold is dumping as if the conflict is over. All right? This is not what you see in one of these type of war conflicts. Actually, you should see the opposite. You should see gold surging. All right? You should see gold surging because people are trying to sell whatever they can to get into precious metals for, because there's wars going on, people are scared, there's a lot of uncertainty, but we're seeing the opposite of that, guys. We're also seeing it on silver. Silver is back down to $67, and it's crazy because I made a comment, I made a post, or I made a video yesterday talking about this. I said, if we can close below this 50, I have a feeling we're going to see the metal trade unwind very quickly. And the reason why? Because we haven't been under the 50-day EMA in forever. Like an actual break below. Like every one of these were not an actual break below. I think the last time we had an actual break below was somewhere over here, which is all the way back in 2022. Like we had a couple of small deviations under it. Like there was a deviation, but like a full scale break. Like this isn't just a small like deviation under. This thing is down right now from the 50 underneath, sitting at roughly almost 7.5%, guys. That's major, all right? So that's what's not making any sense. But then if you also kind of come over here and you look at oil. So oil did do a surge yesterday, but it's kind of just hovering in the red. If you come over here on the 4-hour, you can see it. And, it's hard to say if oil continues to go up. I think that if there is a continuation of aggression in the Middle East and they don't get this thing figured out soon, there's definitely perplexity for oil to continue to drift up higher. And I think that's why everybody's watching oil right now, because until this thing starts to move down and starts to break down and starts to come back below the 50 and do a bearish retest, I think that's going to be the deciding factor when the market switches back risk on. All right. And I'm hoping and praying that they come out with some type of solution quickly. All right, guys? Because what it's been is just a continual back and forth. They send bombs, back and forth. And then there's out of the destruction of that, then there's reports of, like gas fields and, different things getting destroyed. And then this is just causing additional problems. And we need these things to go away. But regardless, guys, and I keep saying it, and I've said it before, I still think as long as we can get past these events, we're still gearing up for 2026 to be very explosive. So we had the FOMC yesterday. Big old nothing burger. Had a feeling it would be a nothing burger just because Jerome Powell's about to get replaced, guys. He doesn't have very long. He also, especially I've noticed this with the Fed, anytime there's like a macro event that's going on that causes massive uncertainty, like wars or stuff, this is a perfect excuse for the Fed to say, oh, we're not doing anything. We need to see what the fallout's going to be, or we're waiting for data. So we already knew the Fed wasn't going to cut rates. That wasn't really what everybody was focused on. People were more focused on seeing Jerome Powell's tone in the different economic projections that they talked about. And again, guys, like when you watch it, it was kind of a nothing burger. It really was. I mean, like, yeah, he says it's too early to see if the fallout from the war is going to, cause inflation to go up. And, it's like I said, if you've seen Jerome Powell, most of his speeches are typically nothing burgers. And I have a feeling the next one that he does will also be a nothing burger because he leaves in May. All right, guys? So I think he's just trying to coast out the door. And this is a big reason why I've said it over and over again, why I think as we get closer from out of April, out of this general zone right here, once we get closer into April and we start going out of April, going closer to May, that's where I am pretty confident that we should hopefully break out of this accumulation range. All right, guys? This is kind of where I'm starting to kind of like look for when, time frame wise, when this could occur. If it doesn't occur by then, let's say that this war continues to drag on and things get worse and blah, 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 well, then there's a chance that delays, and then this doesn't happen until after the summer, and this accumulation range just stretches out a little bit further, guys. All right? Now, it'd be a little, again, I'm not banking on that happening. I have a feeling what will happen is we will stay in this range. At some point, they'll do a spring, which will probably be a deviation outside, somewhere in this bottom range. I'm not saying exactly where I think it'll go. You guys can go watch my other videos where I've put some fibs and some levels that I think are interesting. The two main levels that I am watching more than anything right now, if we decide to do a spring, are these two, which if I put the fib on right here from the bottom to the top. All right. So the 618 at 57,000, this is an area I'm looking at, guys. And the reason why I'm looking at this area, and I think it has a lot of confluence there, is you can see these were the areas, and obviously there was a small deviation under, but this general zone right here, guys, was the last major support zone that drove that move to 126,000. All right, guys? So I could definitely see us coming back down to the 618 and causing a spring, and that would make a lot of sense to me too, guys, especially with the macro uncertainty that's going on. This would be, again, if you look back at the Wyckoffs, guys, and you study the Wyckoffs and you understand how these springs are, set up, it's a quick deviation out, and then once it deviates, it immediately sucks back up, retest, and then push up. Once you identify the spring, guys, you can start to look for, we're definitely going to be leaving up out of here soon. All right, guys? And again, be patient. I think we have time. I've said this over and over again. And I said it on my X page the other day that I smelled a trap, and that's what the market will do, guys. It will trap you off. It will get you to start getting overly bullish at the wrong times, over leveraging, taking out positions that you shouldn't be taking out, just for them to pull the hammer back down and liquidate you before the actual move occurs. You don't want to put yourself in that position. Be stoic, be patient, understand what's going on, set those limit orders, and do it the right way, guys. Don't FOMO in. Something else that's been very weird that hasn't made any sense either has been Bitcoin dominance. So this is Bitcoin dominance right now, guys. And what's even, not saying strange, but Bitcoin's down 2.55% currently, while Solana's only down 2%. So it's like Bitcoin is actually performing worse than alts, and Bitcoin's actually underperforming, and it's actually dropping more. And it's interesting because we're seeing this on Bitcoin dominance. We're now back below the 50. If you come over here on the weekly, you can see we've come back up and rejected again. And we've been talking about this for a long time now, guys. We've been in this for months now, months. We broke back below this. This is the weekly. Back in July, the end of July into August, guys, we've been below this. And I said it in my last video, when you squeeze something together like that for that long, when this thing does break, it's going to be very violently, either and hopefully to the downside, but it equally, guys, you might even see this thing spring to the upside depending on how bad things get over the next couple of weeks or next couple of months, all right? But I'm monitoring it closely. This is very interesting. And guys, that's what the craziest thing about this market is right now is there's so many things that are contradicting each other. It's never happened before. Like, we've never seen any of this. That's what's made everything so hard to navigate, because the things that usually correlate together are not correlating together, and the things that usually don't correlate together are. And that's where it's kind of making people so I guess the best way to describe it would be losing confidence. You know what I mean? Losing faith. You know what I mean? And I think that's the time where you should be running in. When everybody wants to leave, this is the time where you need to be looking to run in. That's the reason why Warren Buffett says it all the time, guys. He's always telling you, be greedy when others are fearful. All right? When everybody's running for the hills and everybody's trying to sell their assets and get out of things, that's the time that you should be accumulating and buying, guys. And if you do this right over the next few months, you can radically change you and your family's lives by just being stoic, being patient, setting up a strategy, and applying it. And if this is the first time you've ever found any of my content, my name's Coach JM. I've been a digital asset investor for over 5 years. I'm also the founder of Alpha Syndicate, and I'm the host of all the Crypto Talk workshops. And if you want to learn this stuff, guys, if you want to understand how we connect the macro, the fundamentals, the technical analysis, and how we put it all together, if you want a place you can get coached and mentored and network with other entrepreneurs and traders, click the link below, guys. We'll see you inside.